Now, we had before that, we have Lebianca, the remix of People, Aya Star, and a host of others there. And we're still on our conversation as usual. Monday morning, big conversation. What are we talking about today? We're going straight in for mental health, trying to understand. Now, statistics, let me read this out. Interestingly, data says 62% of music artists globally face mental health problems stemming from the stress of the music industry. What is the issue? Why is 62%? That's more than, that's like, if that was an examination, that's a B+. So 62% of the creatives in the music industry are not okay when it comes to the state of mental health. And of course, we're not going to be chopping it up alone. We have a resource person that's going to be joining us, one of the best out there. We're going to be connecting with Dr. Carol Mathias O'Chez from Thrive Ghana. She's the founder and psychologist at Thrive Ghana. She's going to be explaining to us what these statistics mean and why it matters so much. So, Olele Salvador to my left, Lenny Lomotin right in front of me. How are you guys?
We are very well.
Ready for the big conversation?
By God's grace.
All right.
Okay.
Production, can you patch us through? I don't know if Dr. Moshe is on the line.
Look at that fanboy.
Yeah, the guy's nice, but Lenny, you have a problem.
No comments, please.
All right, so we're waiting for Dr. O'Shea to join us here so that we can explore that. But we've had a few artists. We have a few artists that have come in and spoken about their mental health, right? A few to talk of. We've had Familia who mentioned it. We had Miss V as well. Well, there on your screens, you can see Dr. Carol ready for us. Good morning, Carol.
Good morning, Cyril. How are you?
Hi, can't hear you. Hello? Can you hear us? If you can check your mic for us. We're live here, but we can.
Okay, my mic is unmuted. I can hear you.
Okay, we can now hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can now hear you.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we're going to fix that technical hitch right there. But again, like I was saying, Lenny and Olele, do you have any stories or references around the mental health and artists that you've interacted with, people you've had the opportunity to speak to on the topic, stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, the kind of relationship we build with these artists or these creatives, obviously they share things that you can obviously, put out in the public. But they tell you that fame and stardom comes with a lot of mental responsibility. And that is because you need to be strong. You need to be strong up there. People see you to be that perfect being. Even for us on TV and radio, often people think that because we sit on TV and radio, we are perfect beings because we put in a word or two or we contribute to a particular national discourse. We are supposed to know better. So the expectation is on an all-time high. And sometimes when you get into the house or you get into the room and you are really trying to find yourself, it's very, very, very difficult because you are like, Charlie, I'm supposed to do better and there's all eyes on me and, the expectations are on the high and I need to find a way out and I need to find solutions. Like people reach out to you, oh, bro, can you help me do this, do that? And you're not even done helping yourself. you get what I'm saying?
I think with that, it has to do with the society, right?
Yeah.
And as an individual, as much as possible, well, to an extent, it's not everybody who won't let these things get to them, right? It's not everybody that can shoulder the pressure from society to be a certain way, right? If I remember correctly, several months back or even years back, Cardi B came to say that if you are a parent and role model, being a role model, you're not doing right, because then, what happens as a child? You're surrounded by your parents, you're surrounded by aunties, uncles, So she made reference, back some time ago, Cardi B was really wild. She was really, out there with her words, with however she behaves and all of that. And she said that if you are going to have me, people were saying, okay, she's a role model, she shouldn't be wearing or saying certain things. If you are going to leave role modeling to me, then as a mother or as a parent, you have failed to an extent, right? Because that is a child's first point of contact.
That's right.
So why would you leave your child to be looking up to celebrities or, personalities just because they are in the outside space? I say this over and over and over again. We are human first before anything else. And so you, who is not, an out there figure, whatever you are going through, best believe that somebody in the public eye is going through that. Probably times 10 of what you are going through, because they have to take their pressure, take the pressure from all people around them, take the pressure from the people around them and society. So it's a circle. It's you, people around you, society, then there's a bigger circle, so imagine all of that. So people go through a lot.
Let's try and get back to Dr. Carol there. Hi, Carol, again. Good morning again. Can you hear me now? No. Hello?
Yes, Cyril, I can hear you.
I can hear you now. Is it fine?
Great.
Good morning.
Yes, I can hear you
welcome
perfectly.
to Culture Daily. So you've been hearing the snippets of the conversation we're having so far, and we're trying to understand what exactly is going on that, results in 62% of people in the creative industry having challenges with mental health. What are the causes? How do they fight that? And if there's any learnings or references that you can walk us through.
I think you started touching on most of the issues, right? Like you rightfully said, we often forget that these are human beings first and foremost, right? And they are dealing with the pressures of life, right? The stresses of life, family life, health issues, finances, trying to make it in a cutthroat industry. Right? They're human first and foremost. And in addition to dealing with that, like you rightfully said, they are doing it in the public eye. And we have all these expectations in terms of their public image, how they are to present. We expect, musicians and entertainers to be raw and vulnerable and nice and real all at the same time. And it's a lot of stress to carry. And so, like you rightfully said, we see really high levels of depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and eating disorders, specifically because of this idea of how they have to present in a certain way. Those are the kind of mental health issues that you see specifically with entertainers, musicians.
I was going to understand from you was the first question about what the most prevalent is, what the most serious issue that you come across. Because these days, everybody on Twitter and social media writes depression. People don't even know what it is. If you can touch on some of the key ones.
Yeah, depression and anxiety. And by depression, I mean clinical depression, right? Not just feeling low for a little while, but, a low mood, lack of energy to the point where it begins to interrupt your ability to function. Right, you can't get out of bed. You find it really difficult to do the things you typically do and enjoy. Suicidal thoughts, right? A lot of clinical depression and anxiety. Clinical depression and anxiety often show up together. So usually, where there's a lot of anxiety, you're going to see quite a high level of depression as well.
I wanted to find out how does that tie into drug use? Well, because we also have that culture, especially in the creative space. Drug use, is it a coping mechanism? Why are the two seen as, brother and sister?
Yeah, you got this absolutely right. Drug use or drug dependence, drug abuse, drug use is often a maladaptive coping mechanism, right? So people are struggling a lot of times with trauma. There's a very strong link between childhood trauma and drug use and abuse, right? So usually people turn to drugs or substance dependence when they are trying to navigate really serious trauma, right? So it's often a way that people are using to try and cope and get through depression, anxiety, PTSD, and then that dependence builds to the point where it's an addiction.
What is for our listeners on Plus and for our viewers? What is you mentioned two things that I need some clarity on. You said maladaptive coping mechanisms. So is that to suggest that there are some preferred coping mechanisms? And then secondly, you also mentioned PTSD. If you could just give us a breakdown of what post-traumatic stress disorder is all about and how creatives are even affected by that.
Okay, so I'll start with post-traumatic stress disorder is when you have experienced something really traumatic, either in your childhood or even in your adulthood, and the subsequent stress that comes with dealing with it, right? And sort of dealing with the difficult and painful emotions that come from that traumatic event, how your body, your mind, your soul, your spirit was impacted by that traumatic event. And not to say that entertainers and musicians specifically deal with it, but to the earlier point of they being humans, right? A lot of human beings deal with quite a wide range of childhood trauma. And often with musicians and entertainers who you see struggling with substance abuse, when you talk to them, when you dig, there's usually some trauma in their childhood that they are dealing with or they haven't dealt with, and you are often seeing the consequences in their drug dependence. Maladaptive coping mechanisms is exactly right. They are healthy coping mechanisms. When we say maladaptive coping mechanisms, those are unhealthy coping mechanisms, and drug abuse, drug dependence falls into an unhealthy coping mechanism.
Okay, so short of coming to see you, a clinical psychologist, or whatever therapy that you need, are there any preferred coping mechanisms that people might engage in the same way they're able to pick up the maladaptive on their own? Is there any positive ones that they could decide? I mean, exercise, whatever, I don't know. Take a walk. Is there something that you can do on your own to help kind of battle the depression and anxiety up often?
Yeah, exercise or any kind of movement, like you said, is great for your body, because what happens is when we move and our heart rate gets to a certain point, certain chemicals in our brain, we call them feel-good chemicals, serotonin, dopamine, they're released and they feel really, really good. And so any kind of activity, whether it's exercise, dancing, walking, is always a good idea. Now, when we talk about musicians and entertainers or creatives in general, it's really interesting because for a lot of them, their music, their art is usually a form of expression, right? It started off as a way for them to deal with stuff. And a lot of them often find a lot of solace in their music. But when that also becomes the source of stress, sometimes it can become really difficult for it to continue serving that purpose. So another thing that's important for them to do is to find alternative ways of expression, right? That isn't necessarily the thing that they are doing professionally, right? And we find that most people are creative across board. So if you're a musician, you might think about, finding other ways to deal with your stress, maybe art or writing or some other creative way, because maybe the music isn't a way for you to kind of de-stress anymore because it's become the thing you do professionally, right? The other thing that's really important, Cyril, is social support systems, right? When we talk about mental health, being in a great space with your mental health, we need several layers of healthy social support systems. So the people you keep around you are important, right? Do you have people that you can turn to and talk to and rely on when you're struggling through things? Or do you sort of have people around you who you can't rely on? So those are three very important things that I think I would mention.
I have a screwball question, right? So let's say I'm the biggest artist in Ghana and I'm getting all the social media, all the press attention. That's a truckload of serotonin and dopamine hitting me every day. Every time I touch my phone, somebody is saying something amazing. It's always positive reinforcement and all that. How does that make my situation worse if I'm really dealing with something? For example, you have Kiddy just got off. I don't know what's wrong with Kiddy. I mean, I'm just speculating, but Kiddy went off social media for a while receiving all that love. If what he was going through had anything to do with that kind of mental stress, how was the dopamine and the serotonin that he was receiving from all the attention not able to cope or balance out the distress, the depression, anxiety that he was feeling? Because if we're searching for attention ultimately, then having 1 million people liking your photo and whatever, does that become a drug in its own,
Exactly. It becomes a drug on its own, and that's why it doesn't have the intended impact, right? Because it shouldn't be the only thing, it shouldn't be the sole thing you're relying on. It's like a 360 thing, right? So you should be getting it from a range of different places so that one sole place doesn't become the place you go to get it. Otherwise, then you become dependent on it. So if I'm the biggest artist in Ghana and I'm getting that dopamine rush, you know, my pleasure center is being rewarded by all the likes and the compliments and all of that, I'll keep seeking it out. I'll seek it out to a point where it now becomes unhealthy, right? And unfortunately, what happens with the pleasure center in our brain is there's a threshold. And once you get to that threshold, it plateaus. And even though you're seeking out the same stimulants, it doesn't give you that same rush anymore. And that's why you then find people go to extra lengths to try and get it because they've hit that threshold and they're kind of not getting the rush back. So it becomes a drug on its own. And that's why it doesn't remain healthy anymore. So the idea is to have a full 360 where you're getting, you know, your dopamine, your serotonin, your de-stressing from a variety of different places so that you don't become dependent on one source only.
Okay, I'm going to let Lenny and Olele come in after this question as well. I'm sure they also have a lot to ask. But I'm just curious, in a more preventive light, what do we do? A lot of these sound like measures to be taken after I'm already in a rut. I'm already down and it's whatever. And then this is what I need to do to get out of it. But is there any way to prevent these? Or is there anything I'm supposed to do even before I become the biggest star and all that relevance is killing me and attention has now become a drug and all that? What do I do? Because we have a lot of creatives on the spectrum across board. There's people who are now starting out who are even more depressed than people who've been in it for 10 years. So it's a mixed bag. So I just want to know, is there any preventive stuff to always keep your mental health in the best form?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think generally taking good care of your physical health, because we often downplay and we deprioritize how much our physical health is linked to our mental health. The state of our physical health really, really kind of affects how we're doing mentally. So how much activity is your body getting? What are you eating? How much sleep and rest? And, you know, when we talk about people in the entertainment industry, we know they work crazy hours, right? Their touring schedules sometimes can be crazy. So sometimes they're not getting enough sleep and enough rest. And sometimes we don't realize how much that impacts our mental health. So how well are you taking care of your physical health? I'll go back again to the social support systems I talked about. How strong are your social support systems? Are you building, as you're coming up, are you building a community with other artists who prioritize mental health? Right? Are we having conversations like this that specifically target and focus on the mental health of musicians? Right? And in the industry as a whole, like I don't think in a lot of industries there's a lack of industry regulation, right? In terms of working conditions and the mental health of entertainers. We're not having those conversations. We're not putting those structures in place. But it's important that we do. And one thing that's also really important, Cyril, that we do to entertainers is this idea that, you know, we almost reward and encourage harmful, maladaptive behavior with entertainers, with this idea that when you are creative, then by all means is linked to there has to be some mental health challenge that you have, because that's where your creativity comes from, right? And I think it's really important. We see that a lot with Kanye West, right? This idea that because he's bipolar, that's why he's so creative. And so there's, unfortunately, what that results in is this idea that if you're taking care of your mental health, it's going to kind of diminish your creativity, when we actually find that the reverse is true, right? So I think we also need to challenge that narrative.
I really like what you said, but I'm going to let Olele, Salvador, and Lenny come in. I'm sure they also have some questions to ask or some input to make. Guys?
Yeah. Doc, recovering from, quote unquote depression, right? And then also, getting yourself out of that rut of, okay, I've been there. I don't want to go back there. I don't want to, because most of the time when these things happen, you find that the person in question is pushing to do what they love to do best. But eventually it tells on the craft and all of that. Now, when they take time off and they come back, what are some of the things that you'd say they should do? I know that you've mentioned exercise and all of that, but what are some key things that they should do just to make sure that they don't go back to where they are coming from? Because then eventually, I think that in the long run, it affects the person's career, because then you were doing good, you got into a depressive state, and then you took time off, and then you come back, then you get back into that depressive state, and then you take time off, right? In the end, people wouldn't even want to, follow whatever the person is doing, because, okay, the person is just here for a short while and is going to fall back into that state.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good question. I think whatever it is you're doing, or whatever it is you are leaning on while you were away, it's important that you continue to. I see a lot of people, not just in the entertainment industry, and even have worked with people who, they take time off. They usually get into therapy. They're getting some professional support, right? And then once they start to feel better and come out of it, they kind of stop leaning on those support systems, right? It's really important that whatever it is you are doing in your time away, as much as you are able to, taking into mind that, yes, now that you're back at work, you may not have the same amount of time and dedication, but as much as possible, continuing to do those things. So if you are in therapy, continue to go to therapy. Don't stop just because you are starting to feel better. It's important that you keep going and you keep leaning on those support systems. Boundaries, right? And I find that in the entertainment industry, there's a lack of boundaries. There's a lack of boundaries when it comes to people's personal space, privacy, all of that. So as much as possible, it's important that you put in place boundaries, and especially boundaries around the things that you realize was really harmful for you before. Right. So whether or not it's working, a certain amount of hours, when does your work day stop? Who are you hanging around in terms of, if, for example, you're trying to recover from some form of substance abuse, who are the people around you? What do you have access to? What kind of environment are you in? It might be really hard, but it's going to be really important that you put those boundaries in place to kind of help you navigate. So those are the two things that I would suggest.
Doc, do you think that we've done a good job as a country to extend these services of help to our creatives? That look on your face tells it all. But do you think we've done a good job? Because it's right in front of us. It's before us. I mean, it's not like it's a hidden secret, right? We see it every time. But it looks like it's one of the conversations that haven't received any sort of focus, or shall I say intentionality, in terms of protecting these ones. And I'm talking about creatives that were big back in the day. We've heard stories of some of the superstars back in the day who have lost everything to either drug abuse or so do you think? And also just a quick one to add, the second part of the question is it expensive? And that's why we are not able to have people really patronize this service or this help.
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's a sad question because, I mean, the truth is, no, we haven't. We haven't done a good job. In a lot of ways, we failed. We failed a lot of our artists and our entertainers because, like you said, we haven't given a lot of focused attention to their mental health needs, right? As much as a country, we've come a long way just in general with mental health care and having conversations about mental health. We haven't really zeroed in on the industry. And even though we know that the pressures they face are unique, we haven't, it hasn't gotten the attention that it needs to have. And that's why conversations like this are important, where we are talking specifically about the mental health of people in the creative industry. So yeah, we failed them horribly, I think. And I also think back to what I said about, because of, in a lot of ways, we reward and encourage a lot of harmful and self-harmful behavior in artists, because of this idea that if you're a musician, then if you're using drugs, is cool, right? As opposed to it being harmful, right? And to the second part of your question, yeah, unfortunately, it's quite expensive, right? But because as a country, the public avenues we have for mental health care aren't enough, and sometimes the quality isn't great, right? Because it doesn't pay well, right? So a lot of people end up having to depend on private institutions and organizations. And unfortunately, that costs quite a bit of money, right? And an upcoming artist might not be able to pay 400, 500 cedis per session weekly, which might be what they need, right, to help take care of their mental health. So yeah, I mean, we failed them. there's no gray area there. It's pretty black and white.
So very, very touching there. I think the part that did it for me was the lack of available outputs or places where you can go and have these conversations and speak up about it. But I mean, do you have any before we wrap up? We know we've taken your morning, but before you wrap up, do you have any particular story you can leave us with, or any reference that you can give us so that we know it's a real world situation, not just theories and speculation? And then, of course, lastly, where we can reach you, and if people need to talk to you, as we've done this morning, how we can get in touch.
Okay. I think, I mean, there are two entertainers or two people in the creative industry that I've worked with, I'm still working with, and you know, several of them, but I think I'll talk about two of them. I won't share their names, of course, but I think for me it was, you know, one of them is up and coming, and one of them is pretty established. But I think for me, what I find encouraging in those two stories is that in both situations, they both got to the point where they realized that they needed help, right? And they needed help beyond what their, you know, immediate support systems could provide. And so they reached out, you know, to seek out help. And because, you know, as the one who's established, because there were concerns about, you know, coming to my office and possibly being recognized, you know, we had to get real creative about when they came and, you know, do some really kind of undercover things, right, to make sure that their image was protected. But they were committed, and they stuck with it. And for both of them, they've stuck with it, and they've grown, they've healed, they're doing better, and you know, they've managed to equip themselves. Not to say that they've been completely cured of the depression and the anxiety they are dealing with, but you know, they've gained coping tools and skills that, you know, they are able to use. That is really, really helpful. If people need to get in touch with me, my company is called Thrive Care Ghana. My website is thrivecaregh.com. And I'm pretty active on social media under the same name, thrivecare_gh. And, you know, there are a good number of private facilities also that work on a sliding scale. And when therapists talk about a sliding scale, it often has to do with the fact that we'll sit down with you, and based on your financial situation or your economic situation, we'll come up with a rate that works for both of us, right? Depending on what you can afford. So if people, you know, are looking for that kind of support, they can reach me through any of my social media handles, thrivecare_gh, or my website, thrivecaregh.com. And if I can support them, I can definitely link them to other mental health professionals who can.
Thank you very much there, and for giving us the platforms that we can connect, because we all need to talk to somebody. It's like Olele said, you're on TV and you're on radio, everybody thinks life is perfect, but it's always good to let stuff off your chest, fight that anxiety and that depression. So we're going to have to let you go at this time, but it's been really, really wonderful talking to you. Dr. Carol Mathias O'Chez. We'll catch up later on the flip side. It's Culture Daily, and we're letting you go for now, but the conversation does continue here. Lenny Lomote, Olele Salvador, in-house. Guys, what I got from Dr. Carol's last submission was stigma. The stigmatization that comes with anything that has to do with mental health. The moment you go somewhere that, hey, I'm going to Dr. Carol's place because I feel depressed, I want to talk to somebody and clear my head, a negative stereotype is tagged on you. And then that's very, 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 very bad for brands, for audience perception of you and everything. I mean, it's crazy. We've had artists, celebrities, entertainers in Ghana who, you know, have come forth and spoken about their mental health challenges they've had, talking to somebody and all that. What would you say the feedback or the impact has been? I mean, of course, individually they would be fine, but has there been any backlash? Has there been any negative press around it?
They were mocked.
Who was mocked? Update us. Mr. Data.
Yeah, the celebrities were mocked. Someone like Funny Face, I remember he was mocked heavily because he liked big bottles.
Yeah.
When the man was literally crying through and he's literally asking for help. Look, there's something wrong with me. I need help. You know.
Wait, hold on. You know, with Funny Face, we didn't see it as that in the beginning.
Yeah.
When it started, we didn't. No, because
listen. Let me chop it out for Funny Face.
Yeah, it wasn't seen as that when he started. We just thought he was. Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah, so we thought it was one of those.
See, that's the problem.
Yes, and his issues, quote unquote, manifested in the same humorous way.
That's the problem.
With him doing what we've known him to do. So it was hard to tell the alcohol from the water.
The problem is people who are often, active on the outside, or them to be very active on the outside. They are very exciting. They are always happy. They are rarely, sad. They are rarely squeezing their faces and whatnot.
Hey, be careful! You're describing me.
It's very easy to say, then it's like, even as Ghanaians, it's very easy for us to just rubbish something like that.
Where does that stem from?
I have no idea, really. I was hoping Doc will have some time to teach us psychologically what that is and why that happens. Because if someone is happy, does that mean that all the time they should be happy?
No.
They shouldn't have like some down times. Because the moment you have a downtime, like even the approach in finding out what's wrong with someone is like an attack.
Yeah.
Like
we don't value mental stability.
No.
As a resource. You can be physically, once you are able-bodied physically, you have a roof, you have food, nobody's dead. We kind of assume that life should be okay. Yeah. Whatever you are going through, take it to the chest and move on. But how many employers can you call and say you are feeling a bit depressed, so you can't come into work? Will you have a job? Will you have a job waiting for you tomorrow?
They wouldn't
understand. I also get you. We should have had Dr. Carol a while.
I'm told in the UK there's a mental health off day or off period or something. It's like a period where everybody takes an off day or an off period to go check their mental health. There's a season in the office or the season in the workplace that allows that. I don't think
it's like flu shots. It's necessary.
Exactly. You just need to go reset and come back, right? For those of us who have to obviously come on TV every single day, I often wonder how that will play out.
Welcome to Culture Daily. when you see Culture Daily, I'm not here for 3 weeks. Because
imagine last night, I think anyway, we're talking about this. You have to wake up every morning, like around 4.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get home very late. Yesterday when we went for the event, look at the time we all went home, and we are back again at 4. Ideally, you're supposed to rest 6 to 8 hours.
But you're still paying water bill, light bill, buying fuel,
and you are back
rent,
here. So what time do you have to rest? What time do you have to... Bro, it's. I always say that it's just the grace of God that keeps us, because even here we don't have the culture of checking in with like a doctor, Chavez to find out
what led to the rise of all this. Like I keep saying social media, right? I don't know if social media amplified it. Yes. But it's like in the last 10 years, this word depression has been everywhere. Depression. Like, listen. When I was in Legon, unless my lecture notes, I never heard anybody use the word depression.
The fact is,
maybe
people
we
actually
didn't know
abuse the use of that word.
Exactly.
Because when doctor was even talking about it, she said you need to be clinically depressed.
Yeah.
Often it's become like a
blanket term.
Yeah.
For when you're not feeling yourself.
And it's become something that people take pride in.
Yeah.
It's a flex.
I'm depressed.
People use it a lot now.
Showing.
It's like wearing braces. When the kid wears braces in school, the other day,
Man, anyways.
But anyway, we have our head of production,
head of program,
Tenneson, joining us here for the conversation that's dear to his heart. Mental health in the creative industry. He doesn't want to be left out of this one. Welcome, boss.
Thank you.
I'm not going to look your face. I forget all your mics.
Am I good?
Praise the Lord.
Yeah. So, see, for me, I think we haven't really looked at this properly as an industry, because generally all of us, we face mental health issues. If you look at even artists, in terms of trying to get hit songs. There's a lot of challenge or situations they go through where, let's imagine maybe someone like maybe a Kwame Eugene gets one big hit song and he has to think of the next big song during that period. And we need to be intentional about trying to get into their heads to understand what goes, through their minds. Because out there, I see that a lot. There are a lot of workshops, there are a lot of seminars, there are a lot of conferences that bring a lot of artists together to share these experiences or to share how they are able to overcome some of these things, even in terms of performances. So, when you're going on tour, example, when you're going on tour, there are a lot of challenges that, you face. Anxiety. How are you going to overcome it? Even through the process of, where let me explain it this way. Like I'm losing my chain of thought. I'm going through it.
No, I get you.
Right now.
The people go on tour with their own therapists.
Exactly.
But you see, my problem is these same creatives in our industry, even these seminars and programs that have to do with the core business of creativity, they don't come.
Cyril,
and then we already have the stigma of mental health.
Cyril, that's where the problem is.
If Dr. Mathias organizes mental health for artists at conference center, she'll be there alone.
Because Lenny, because I think we haven't really taken this seriously. It be like the way you talk. If somebody they wear braces, it be flex. If somebody they wear, because we haven't really taken it seriously. Look, what I realized was even the fans and the media also does a lot of disservice. Even touring, they are 80% of the time when an artist tour gets cancelled is because of a lot of these issues, like
burnout, fatigue, stress,
like the kiddie situation. People will come out and they'll begin to laugh at you. Maybe I think someone had a concert which was cancelled. Blacko and Stoneboy and all of that. Sometimes when you go deep into the issues,
he just couldn't perform.
Charlie, a lot of things. But the fans, they take them on a different level. And they try to minimize the importance of mental health. And that's what we now need to look at. Say, Charlie, it not be everything we go laugh about. It not be everything you go take, make joke, or you go take on social media to throw people about. Even the award schemes where maybe someone will be nominated for 7 awards and eventually the person will not, get any, like the medical situation.
Yeah.
Yes, while fans came on social media to throw medical and make mockery of him, how does industry, how does organizations or foundations take charge of these situations to now begin to educate and then drive that whole, mindset of Charlie guys, the guy they go through and sometimes even the artists themselves, they laugh, say, oh, and this, but the challenges they actually
hit, depressed. No, like that's literally what they'll say, right?
So I think critically, seriously, we really need to be very conscious about these mental health issues. And I realized, just recently, I was reading and I realized that in the month of May, on the music calendar, it is actually set aside for mental health awareness. And I'm like, Charlie, interestingly, the whole year in Africa, even in the world, let me use Africa, from Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, everybody they jam. Everybody. Nobody they
take a break to service the brain.
Exactly. Nobody they take, even as organizations, nobody they take a conscious effort to say, Charlie, let's lead in the month of May, let's lead this whole mental awareness, project and that's where you can get the artist in. Because like I said, the artists, Charlie, a lot of the top level or thought leadership conversations, they don't get it. But we now need to begin to champion it. You saw the Met Gala. A lot of the stars were there. A lot of them. Why? Because it is not just fun for them, but they understand it is also supposed to enable the ecosystem. So it's not like they just showing up to, just showing up to come in. But if I'm signed to Channel, if I'm signed to an Adidas, if I'm signed to a certain fashion brand, as part of my KPIs, as part of, the deal, I'm supposed to represent at some of these events. And that's what I think artists need to do. We've heard EL speak about it. We've heard Famie, Adoma, Felinuna, almost everyone that we've hosted here.
Frida Rhymes.
Why are we not holding major projects or events to actually celebrate or get people to talk about these things? So I think ideally as an industry, Olele, when you do Twitter and all of that, let's be conscious. Like, I think as an industry, we failed. We failed to help these artists because, like you said, it's used blatantly now. Like, Charlie, are they depressed or are they depressive mode?
You lost, so I don't see you last week, Charlie, then are depressed.
Yeah.
No, but you see, that trivializes it as well.
Yeah,
you see,
which is dangerous.
Exactly. If we hear
like
it
the boy
too
who cried
often,
wolf.
yeah, nobody will mind you again. Like, if you're not depressed or if you're just going through a sad moment, right? And then you say it's depression and people want to help you and they realize, oh, it's not that deep. The next time it happens again, when you are actually going through it, nobody will want to, or they will also think that you're still crying wolf like you were before, right? It happens.
Because
if you use it too many times, then you begin to trivialize it. Yeah. If you are not depressed, let's start from there. If you are not truly depressed, if you have not been clinically diagnosed to be depressed, don't use it often. And then maybe when you come out to say that you are depressed, people won't make mockery of it. People won't trivialize it.
People People confuse extreme sadness with depression.
Yeah, and
that's what the problem is.
I was going to tangent onto that and say that we live in a society now that even on the consumer angle, everything is hyper. We've gone from experiencing the world at super speed to now experiencing it at hyper speed. We are now more connected than we've ever been in humanity. We are now more responsive than we've never ever been. And the kind of stimuli that's hitting the average human being every minute is totally unnatural. So people are ambitious. The average person who tells you that I'm ambitious in 2023 is probably 100 times more ambitious than somebody who was ambitious in 1960 because he wants that Maybach. He wants to live in Beverly Hills. He wants to wear the Shada. He wants to be like Ricky. He wants to be like Lenny. And all that is now fueling his, like Dr. O'Chez said, fueling his need for dopamine, serotonin, all the feel-good juices to flow in your head. So that pure desire that is fueling everybody now is leading to burnout. It's leading to fatigue. And the moment you're burnt out and you're fatigued, you label it depression. But a lot of people who say they are depressed, they are blah, blah, just needed a break.
Exactly. Sometimes
and the break
you
is
just need
not
a few days
a physical, I know they do nothing. You can be in the most quiet room, but the noise going on in your head is what is stressing you out. So I feel like a lot of people are not realistic.
And
especially
the breaks are necessary.
Yeah. The pressure is unnecessary.
It's underrated.
That's why I asked the doc about social media. Like, the brain is such a thing that when you see something, it appeals to you first and then you desire it. Right? And now we are seeing everything from everyone all the time. So things that your common sense tells you that to acquire this, right, you can desire it. To acquire this, it will take you 20 years. Your brain is no longer dealing on that spectrum of common sense.
You want it now.
I remember when we were kids, we used to sit by the side of the road and point at cars and would say, when I'm grown, I'll buy this. Now that thing doesn't exist anymore. You see that when a kid says, when I'm grown, I'll buy this, it's acknowledgement that it will take time. When a small kid is sitting by the side of the road and sees Lenny's dress and says, hey, when I grow, I'll wear that dress, it's acknowledging that it will take
and you're not
time.
there yet.
And you're not there yet.
Exactly.
That thing has been lost. Now we see the thing, boom, we want it. But I mean, we have another guest that we're going to be pulling onto Culture Daily, our big conversation around mental health in a couple of minutes. But in-house, we have Olele Salvador, Lenny Lomote, and Ricky Tenneson. We're chopping it up. We're speaking about mental health, how our artists, how our creatives, entertainers manage to balance creating for us and also staying sane. And then also why as an industry and as a unit, we have not invested in care for mental health, knowing that all the art that we experience comes from the same brain, the same mind that we are so burdening. And of course, social media, the big villain, a tool, but also a tool that is causing damage to the amount of dopamine and serotonin that's being pumped into our bodies. When your phone is about to die, the anxiety you get, people will not run from the rain, but people will run to get a charger. People will not cross the road at full speed for safety of their life, but they will jump hurdles and make sure they plug their phone before 1% becomes zero. That is wrong, right? When basic life needs, like getting out of the rain, crossing the road, is not a priority because you are scrolling.
Because, Cyril, it's because of what's engineered to make it look important. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like...
Break it down. I don't understand.
The engineering, and it still comes back to the social media. If you look at our time and that of where our parents were before, the amplification was less. Of course, there might be a number of people who were dealing with their own demons and whatnot. But now social media has engineered, or what we see on social media has engineered, what is important for us to focus on when really it's not important. Yeah. So, for example, even we can't drive these days without putting our phone down. We can't walk on the street without putting our phone in our pocket. But back in the day, when you were walking down the street, you had to keep your focus on the street, so you put your phone in the pocket.
Look left, look right. Look
exactly.
left.
These days, they are selling phone stands to you. That, bro, you can still use your phone, so put your phone on the stand and use it. You get what I'm saying? Because you don't want to miss the action.
Capitalism will take advantage.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So the engineering has also contributed in the way. That's what I'm saying.
Now the social media is on the car dashboard, in the car system. It's not like so you're driving.
Sorry, Lenny, you finish. Let's address it properly. That car dashboard stand is for a certain purpose. And let's educate for that. We are abusing it.
That's what I'm saying. You see, that's what I'm saying, that the engineering is what the problem is. Because like you said, there is a purpose for anything. Miles Monroe says without a purpose, abuse is inevitable.
I don't think the engineering is the problem. I think that everybody, us included, right? There's a version of you that lives in your perceived reality on your phone. And then there's you in real life. And we've become so detached from who we really are that when we put that window down, that window into your fantasy life, when that window closes and you put it down, who you are in reality,
bro, let me tell you something.
It's no longer giving you that reward.
Let me tell you.
Let me bring it to our artist. We will see that, Lenny Lumote, big Afrobeat artist, 20 million Instagram. But she doesn't feel like that.
All right.
What we perceive her to be and what she sees herself to be, there's a huge gap. And that's what's driving her crazy.
Yeah.
That's what's leading to her
depression.
Make
a bunch of mind on something. Once upon a time, Twitter shut down. They had a shutdown. You couldn't access your Twitter. You couldn't tweet. WhatsApp also experienced the same. Did you see the meltdown?
Even Instagram.
Did you see the like?
Listen,
that was how
Twitter says Instagram down. Oh my God, it's not just me. I'm like, what? Instagram is down.
And I'm saying that, you see, Twitter was just, or once upon a time, High Five, I'm coming you. High Five and MySpace Dems. It was just supposed to be that place where you
go to cafe and go maybe twice a month to go and check
just
my
to go and check a High Five, pen pal,
and something I do when I'm done. Well, go to cafe to go and
download.
Because there was not so much content.
Phone. You didn't even have the device.
And there was not so much content at the time. Now, when you go on Instagram, you cannot just go and check on some message somebody sent you. Exactly.
You can just be lost in Instagram and you can spend hours on there. Legit hours on there and not even realize it.
What is the
same?
I'm a perpetrator. How much do I
You are what?
Perpetrator.
I am very
Hey, you are losing it. I'm a perpetrator of that same action. How many times do I send you memes?
Yeah.
Like, it's like a world. You enter in a room.
That's it. You get
and you are stuck. And the messed up part about it, I almost swore on TV. The messed up part about it is that a part of your mind is telling you, put it down, do no.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did they do? And then the other side of you is going,
made people procrastinate.
I think we're
guys, before you come in, we have a guest. Let's host our guest. Hello, Ovi. Hello, Ovi, can you hear me? Hello, Ovi, can you hear me? You're tuned into Culture Daily. You're joining us here in Studio 899. Hello. I think we've lost there for a second. Guys,
so this is what
about to say.
Ricky was
I was saying, you see, we seem to enjoy a lot more of the invention, or you use a certain word. Let me use the invention of, the tools, the software, the applications and all of that. But those who actually create it don't also try to be conscious of telling us the side effects of it, because cereal is a typical example. Like, it's that bad. Like, for somebody as cereal, getting close to him and seeing how addicted cereal is to his phone, it'd be bad. Like, you cannot be with cereal for like 5 or 10 minutes without, like, every day.
I won't brief for him, aside that he's working on.
Thank you.
Please.
Well, I don't know about that. For me, maybe that'd be different. I mean, at every time, 0 day on his phone.
I'm holding my phone now.
And you know, he was actually saying it that for me, I know how to manage and balance it. Like, I can be there and decide that, okay, I want to watch this thing on TV, or I want to watch this even on social media, and not attend to other things. So I think we should also be very, very, very conscious about, you know, the kind of things or how we get addicted to these things. But it cannot be just us. It can only be from the various organizations or institutions who try to keep us in check, just like the phones. If the organizations or the security organizations are going to be very strict on, if I find you going live on, you know, on your phone while driving, it's an offense.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be.
Companies try to institute no phones in the workspace, and some got sued. That, you know, if somebody wants to reach you, they should call the office line.
Yeah.
And say, oh, hello, it's an emergency. We need to reach Ricky or Lenny. So don't come and be doing focus and work. People sued the companies and won.
Well, on what grounds? Because for me, sometimes I always want to.
No,
I think Ovi is back on the line.
Anyway, Ovi, can you hear me? Are you back? Are you back? Hello. Good morning.
Yeah, hello. Good morning.
Hi. Have you been
morning,
listening
everybody.
to us? We're here talking about mental health on Culture Daily this morning. How are you doing?
All right. I've been good. Yourself?
Charlie, we too, we're inside. We're managing. We're doing our best. So, like our conversation was leading into, we just wanted to understand what it's like, you know, in the creative space, the entertainment space, mental health. What does it mean to be mentally healthy? And then, void of that, what is the struggle like dealing with depression, anxiety, and trying to balance it all and still be a prolific and relevant creative? You know, we want to know, especially from your own perspective.
Okay, so thank you for this opportunity to be on your show and speak about this issue. To be honest, it's something that I have been through it, and I know a number of artists too are going through it, even, you know, the A-listers and all of that. But I mean, let's not even talk about that one. See, it's crazy, to be honest. It's crazy. You know, I don't know if I'm not sure you would even know if you are actually going through it. At some points, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know that you're actually going through this thing, but then you realize that you're unhappy, you're uninterested about things that you love the most. Like, for instance, myself, at some point, I wasn't interested in singing anymore. I didn't want to see anything, entertainment, anything. Those things, I love them all, but then I didn't want to, you know. I don't know what was pushing me not to be interested, but it just suddenly happened. I was just not interested in those things, and if it affected me greatly, like, you know, our job, you have to be able to step out and, you know, be in the faces of people. But then suddenly, I just don't want to go anywhere anymore. You get me? So, to be honest, it's crazy, and it's affecting a lot of people. And I know it'd be crazy how the whole thing be. And if you don't take care, it go either kill your career.
Let me stop you there before you go on. Like,
you know,
about killing your career.
Being suicidal and all those things. And Charlie, it'd be crazy.
About killing your career and the reception that, you know, this mental health conversation has. What was it like? Who did you speak to? What was the reception? What did you get to sit with a professional? What did the team around you, your immediate support system, friends and family? What was the reception before progressing through it? Because I really understand the stigma around it. I'm in the same space and I've seen how other people have handled it, and it's not easy. And the bravery that you've shown, the courage that you've shown, I just want you to walk us through what your immediate support system reaction was when you finally had this tough conversation?
So, to be honest, at that time when I was going through it, I didn't have so much support at that time. But then when like people around me realized that, like, we just they go off like anytime. I don't know. We just know they hear from around, I had my family come around, like my big sister and a few close friends, Even it got to the point where like some friends around me, like they just run away. They just run away from me. You get me? So like my sister, few friends, they took me to the hospital, took me to like a prayer camp. I sat with my godfather. He spoke to me. Then my mindset go off. So then I know they really understand whatever they go on safe, But when they took me to the hospital, I tried explaining the things that I was experiencing. And then, they were like, okay, it could be bipolar, it could be psychosis, so many, crazy things with me, and I never even know, say, I get, you get me. So you have to have really positive people around you, people who truly love you. Else you go actually tear, you go tear.
Okay.
So,
my partners in here
I
have
went to the
questions lined up for
hospital.
you. I'm going to cut into that. Get Ricky,
Sure,
Olele,
that's
and
fine.
Lenny.
Same.
Lady and gentleman.
Yeah.
Jump in.
Ovi, you mentioned that when you are going through it, you don't even realize you are going through it, right? At which point did you realize that you were going through it? And then as well, what would you say led to that exactly?
I don't know. I can't really pinpoint when exactly, but people around me, like I said, people around me started noticing weird things that I was like the normal me wouldn't do. You get? They've noticed that no, the girl, no, something is wrong. So I started, thinking deep into it, like what's happening to me. I think something is wrong. Something is really, really wrong with me, and there I was like, okay, it could be those things that they call depression. I don't know how it feels. I've never experienced it before. Because even when, let me even go to, come back to that question when you were like, how it even started. I don't know. But then I think after I lost my brother in 2017, they call something, what's it called? PTSD, right? I think that it started. I saw certain triggers, like So I felt like, okay, it could be that thing, because when my brother died, I didn't cry, I didn't react in any sort of way, I didn't those things. I didn't really express any hurts or anything for a very long time, So I'm sure that after certain things happened to me, it triggered them, and then I got those PTSDs and those things. So I'm pretty sure that I well, I don't know.
So
I
see,
just didn't
this is
know
not a question,
when
but
it
I think
actually
for
started.
all of us
But
to also have a conversation on. I think the OV situation has not really been dealt with properly. I think that should be a wake up. A story could or should be a wake up call for our industry. On the back of all this whole mental health awareness, project, we intend to be very critical about, because look, I don't know if OV can tell us, because I know she was in her teens when she won the how do you call it? The MTN, the Hitmaker. Mm-hmm. No, not Hitmaker. Was it Hitmaker? Yeah, it was Hitmaker. I think she was in her teens, either 19, 20, thereabout. She was young. She was seeing great things.
It was 19,
she was with Stonebwoy. Right after that, she signed on to Stonebwoy. Stonebwoy's label, things began to look very, 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 very like great for her. All of a sudden, boom, everything go off. And I think it is a story that we really need to sit with her, or it is something that we need to really get to understand. Even as well as Miss V, for what she went through, at the height of her career, everything just went south for her. She's tried to come back. We've all seen how much effort she's been putting in her music and where it is going, as well as EL. So for me, Ovi, I don't know what she thinks, but like it's a case study. Like the Ovi situation should be something that would wake everybody up, because Charlie, at that age and where she was and what happened to her after, and even the various issues or stories in and around it, I think, someone, an organization or a group of people should collectively, reach out to her. I don't know if she's even open to us. Sometimes when people go to jail, like Wale, and then when they came back, they wanted to use that as a case study, or they wanted to use that as more like a passion project. I don't know if she's also willing or open, because she said it. A lot of people, they go through them, bro. A lot of people, they go through them.
For me, I think I would want to tilt the responsibility a little bit to the groups, the associations. Is this something that they've considered? Is this something that they have included to their modus operandi?
But it's sad. See, quick before you come in. It's sad because when you ask the lady, the psychologist, because I was expecting that, doctor, that what are the foundations or support organizations that exist here? Unless I didn't hear right, but her response was there's just one private organization or
said there's
whatever.
Private organizations, and apart from the major hospitals where it's not a major issue until it has gone, then but
and the private ones are expensive.
Where you did
even Pantine is bastardized. Have you realized Pantine is like what we used to do to our zone too? When over Pantine, like when this is what I'm saying. Even how we approach the conversation.
You can't even buy land at Pantine.
You get that's what I was going to say. Like how we stereotype. Exactly. It's just stereotype.
That's what I was going to take away from. Olele was going to go fine. I wanted him to back. The association cannot exist because the individuals that are supposed to compose the association, the people who are supposed to make up the association themselves, are perpetrators of the stereotype. The leader. Why? The leader of the person you are expecting to lead whether it's a musical president or Gamro president or national film, or he doesn't have mental challenges. But he himself would not want to come and have that conversation.
Because it's a big
you get a problem. Olele, assuming you are leading the team. For you to come and say, guys, I want us to focus 2 months on this.
But you see, that's why
you suspect with that.
That'd be why good. I agree. And that's why, and I don't know if Ovi is still on. That's why I keep saying that the artists also have a key role to play. Because look, if these artists now, Ovi, Miss V, EL, everybody now is beginning to take charge or responsibility to say, guys, the thing will be joke. We need to drive this because, now it will become cool. It's just like how football and even now music is becoming. Those times, if you play football, they see you like some Kubolo boys.
Let me tell you the difference between what you're saying and how the fans are hearing it. Like Carol said, the fan is expecting you to be a hero. When somebody says, I'll be making fun, in biggest fun, you are no longer, you are no longer a human being. You cannot be sad and tired and hungry. You are a superhero in the fan's mind. Unless you channel this messaging through the art form, like LeBianca did. See the response. Compare a Miss V coming out to say, mental health is an issue. I was depressed. The reception she got to somebody releasing a song about their mental health and the reception.
No,
I don't know if you know what the contrast.
But see, I don't think so. It's just like I always say, it's the approach and the support systems. Just like racism. Look, now they've made it a big deal. You no go feed day anywhere and like say anything.
No, but mental health is a big deal.
No, but like you see, Cyril. No, what Cyril was saying
what I'm saying is that if artist Lenny comes on live and says, hey guys, for Mental Health Month, every day I'm going to tell a story about blah, 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 blah. People are Charlie, listen. But if she made a song about mental health,
Cyril is the approach.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, that LeBianca, who has been clinically diagnosed, who is on medication, who has been suffering.
I didn't know that.
She said it in an interview.
I didn't know that. So you see, there are ways to it because I didn't know that.
What did we have with there?
I only listened to the song. I only listened to the song and not specifically pay attention to his issues. I think Logic also has been through it. You know, Mr. Logic, who he happened to have managed Wale, you know, Shatta Wale in his prime, and obviously he has a story to share. And then also, Vibrant Fire as well, when he actually at the apex of his career, where
Big bro Logic, morning. Can you hear us, Mr. Logic?
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, good morning, the whole team.
Senior.
What's up?
The matter we talk be that mental health as creatives, entertainers. How are we coping? We want your experiences, your learnings, your knowledge. We want you to share with us some experiential feedback so that we are not just here giving theory. Charlie, welcome to Culture Daily.
Yeah, thank you guys, man. Well, I think the conversation is a key conversation because most of our artists, creative persons, managers, this is like a daily thing that we go through. How we think and the way we manage how we think. Well, I would say that mental health is kind of, overlooked in the creative space because we feel everybody's okay, everybody's fine. People put up a nice face, but they're going through series of problems. Yeah. For example, with my artist, Vibrant Fire, before he passed. I mean, let me take it from Vibrant Fire because he is not here. Then I can do a quick recap into Shatta's issue. Yeah. Before Vibrant Fire passed, there was a prophecy. It was prophesied by a certain, spiritual man saying that he would die and he would die by accident. I mean, he told us. That's like right away, it's like a mental issue right there. Because once you are told this kind of prophecies or once you are made such prompts, you begin to always think that somebody is about to die. Do you get me? So we wake up every morning trying to prevent death. So the artist himself was going through this mental issue. We, the team, was going through it. We were all mentally unstable when we got that prompt. But for humans, you will feel, it's just a message. We've just been told something. But at that moment, if you should go within yourself and consider what is going through your mind, then a psychologist will say that, oh, you are not normal. Because once you tell them how you feel, your fear, how you are depressed, what is ahead of you, obviously you are not normal. So I think mental health issues is like everyday thing. We are always mentally challenged. So I see, well, I mean, we have specific people who are mentally, you would say, deranged. But a mental health issue is something that we go through on a daily basis. In the space, you want an interview, you are not being offered an interview. You want your song to be played, it's not being played. You are depressed. You are thinking, you are asking questions. The moment you start going into yourselves, asking questions, you are mentally unstable because you cannot find reasons why this is not happening normal for you. You get me? So I would say that it's an everyday thing. But then in my case, with Vibrant Fire, we were challenged with the prophecy. We tried preventing, we tried and tried, it didn't work until that unfaithful day that the guy died. So right from the onset of the prophecy, we were mentally unstable till he died. Now, how to prevent it? I don't think there is anything like a preventive measure for a mentally unstable or a mentally ill person. Seriously. It is kind of an inward feeling, a perception that you have. Aside the fact that you can psychologically or medically be diagnosed that you are sick inside, the moment you find yourself thinking something is not right with how you live, how something is progressing, then you are being challenged mentally. Do you get me? So it is an everyday thing that we go through in the space. Now, if you ask me how do we prevent, it's just an individual thing. You need to be able to psych yourself to believe that, and also to understand that things will never be the same. Things will not always be how you expected. Nothing is permanent. You need to psych. It's a matter of well, it's still a psychological thing. You still have to psych yourself to understand that the road will not always be smooth. Once you're able to understand this path in life, I think you'll be able to prevent some of these things.
That's a very, very beautiful submission there. But my brother Ricky Tenneson has some inputs to make there.
Yeah, logic. So
Yeah.
on Wale, I would want to also understand a few things. You know, Wale was Bandana before. He came from the Bandana
Yes.
era. Major success, big song, Bandana from Ghana, you know, mounted a lot of stages, got nominations and all of that. Then he went off. You know, nobody heard of him. He was actually even still trying to survive, trying to do music. But things went off for him for like, I think 6-7 years or close to a decade. Then he came back. Coming back, things had changed. There were new people, you know, at the helm of affairs. He was trying to get attention. You know, you were there directly with him, you know, at the early stages. How was it like dealing with him, you know, psychologically, knowing that Charlie, he knew he deserved the shot. He knew he deserved to be playing all the shows that everybody else was. But then nobody did mind him. So how were you dealing with that, you know, Wale, at that time?
Well, I think at that time, I would say, because he was desperate to make the breakthrough, I can say mentally, he wasn't unstable. He was unstable then because he was ready to do anything and everything for the break. But then I, the person who was technically around him, I knew that is a process and it will take a process to get to the top. So it took me to be talking to him. I mean, it's a matter of talking to the person. It took me to be talking to him. I mean, giving him hope, making him believe that, look, you deserve this. You will have to get it by all means. There is a process we need to follow. I think my being with him at that time helped him to shape his thinking because, look, the disapprovals were many. Everywhere you go, people say ill stuff about him. He's disrespectful. He doesn't respect. Some will say he doesn't dress well. Some will say his songs are too hard for Ghanaians. I mean, there were so many of these negative vibes coming to him at that time. But then, lucky for him, I had come in from Jamaica and I believed I already had understanding in what he was doing. So I believed in him. I showed him an ultimate faith in his talent. And I made him believe that, look, whatever people are saying is not a situation. We can break through. We can do it. So I would say, well, people can decide to challenge you when you say stuff or when you say things that you think help them through the passage in life. But then you know what you did for them, and they know inside what you did for them as well. I know that my presence at that time helped him to shape his mental at that time because he was very challenged with, you know, the kind of stigma that he was going through that time. If I wasn't around, I don't know what would have happened. But then I was able to shape the thinking, shape the thoughts, you know, made him believe that, look, we will do it, we can do it, we'll break through, came up with strategies and you know, road plans and here he is today. I mean, he's here. I don't know if he still remembers all the things that I told him and the things that we discussed. I don't know if he still remembers them. But for me, I remember each one of them. I remember all the depression states he was in at that time and how he gradually, you know, we were able to migrate from the bandana and then branded to Shatawale, even how the name Shatawale came about. You know, all these things were all issues that were hanging around him that time to how to switch from bandana to Shatawale. And he did the work. So for me, I would say that they are more than necessary upcoming artists down there who are depressed. Some of them, if they get a chance today, the things they will say, you may consider them as madmen, whether deranged or unstable, because they are highly depressed. You understand? So we should like I heard one of you saying that we should start looking at support systems for, you know, such situations in the space. I think it's one of the main things we should be looking at because people are depressed. But for Shatawale, he got the hope. All you need in a state like, in times like that, you need hope. Someone to give you hope, to make you understand and also to change your thoughts. That's all you need. And that's what I did at that time. And then here we are today.
Okay. All right, good.
Mr. Logic, you keep saying that you spoke to him, you gave him hope and all of that. I hear that loud and clear, but did you also seek any form of help for him in relation to therapy or psychological help, aside what you were doing for him?
Well, I mean, the difference, the distinction between a medically deranged or unstable person is quite different from a depressed person. Do you get me? His state wasn't a medical one. It was a state of depression. Why am I let alone? Why am I not playing the shows? Why am I not involved? Why are my songs not played? Why am I not there?
But Mr. Logic, how did you diagnose? How did you diagnose that? How did you identify the difference between, mentally deranged and because before according to experts, before you can actually be deemed or termed depressed, you have to be clinically diagnosed. So, what kind of diagnosis did you go through to identify the difference between?
Just to update, the link is also going down. So if it does cut, we'll get back to you.
When you go to the psychiatric hospital, one of the key
I think
signals they look out for. Am I on? When you go to the psychiatric hospital, one of the key signals they look out for in a mentally stable person is communication. I mean, communication, how you communicate, how you are able to stay, stay sane in a conversation. So once a person is able to communicate and also share in a conversation with you, then of course that person is okay. But then we have people who are deranged. That is different from a person who is depressed and feeling a bit stigmatized. That's different from that. So his case wasn't a medical one. And if you ask me how was I able to diagnose, I didn't have to use any medical, way to diagnose that he was okay.
I think
he communicated.
Mr. Logic's link going down there. But OV is still on, and we're still here in the Studio 899. Culture Denny. Lenny's been quiet for a minute, but we've been having the conversation, very deep one here.
Lenny hasn't been quiet. She's made
quiet.
Lenny.
No, I mean, when Mr. Logic was talking, I was watching her face. She was very.
Lenny asked something very, very critical. Because, and that's where that's where the problem is, that when these situations are happening, a lot of us feel like, oh, it be Vim, it be you for psych yourself up, and consistently, that was what Logic was saying, that it is just psyching yourself, but sometimes you need the science behind it. You need to really get a proper psychologist to crack it. Because yes, he'll be just there feeling that, Charlie, the industry this and all of that. But that was the question Ole was trying to get from him, that how did you diagnose that the guy did depression mode? And you were asking a fine question that we need to understand or find the clear distinction between what you said, being in a sad state,
extreme sadness,
extreme sadness, and depression.
They're two different things.
We need to begin to answer those questions. And you, since you've been there before, Cyril, because if you give me psychologist, so obviously,
she was my classmate. I've known Carol.
Cyril himself is a psychology major, isn't it?
I just don't.
What's the difference? What was
psychology? You know about how the mind works in the frame.
I mean, being able to determine that. Oh, Charlie, are they extremely sad situation, like he said,
drawing the line.
Drawing the line between depression and Charlie, I'm sad.
Depression prohibits you from normal function. So you don't want to be in public. You either eat to cope. You want to be in your room in the darkness,
or you don't
listen to music and all that. Sadness is momentarily. Sadness wears off. That's why we are even able to dance at funerals. Because no matter how sad you be, music is playing. The normal human response will listen. People will jump. But depression takes you away from normal human function.
Right.
So the thin line between being chronically sad or critically sad and the beginning of depression is your ability to function.
Then I think this
more
industry,
of us depressed.
No. I think this industry we did back big time.
I just one day I was telling today. I know that one go anywhere. Telling me slow, bro.
No, but that's no.
But that's not depression.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's depression. I didn't say that's depression. I've not said it. I'm saying that the moment somebody says that once, okay, Lenny's tired. If that's Lenny's MO, that you need to move heaven and hell, to get Lenny to come and function in a role that Lenny can function in on a normal day.
So
that's
Logic
when red
is back.
flags start coming. So in Mr. Logic's defense, maybe I was not there. This was years ago. Maybe Shatta was functioning 100% every other way, going to studio, showing up on time.
Let's find out
writing
from him.
music. Yeah. I'm just playing lawyer.
Yeah.
His desire, his sadness was not crippling him from functioning. You understand what I'm saying?
But what I'm also saying is, sometimes there are entertainers who don't even want to be out there. There are people in the media space who don't want to be out there in the first place. They just want to base and mind their business and be in their rooms. So with those people as well, we can't exactly say that they are in some form of a depression. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For me, I'd want to ask Ovi, who has been on for a minute, that Ovi, during the period, where you got into depression, how was industry support like? Because it's very important to me. We all knew, fortunately, media reported the incident of, your departure from Beam Nation. Media reported bits and pieces of, the hassle or the challenges you were facing after you left, the record label. But how was industry support like? And even private organizations who help mental health victims. Did you get anybody or industry people consistently, not be one or two people, they check on you, but were you consistently getting that industry support to show that, Charlie, people are really looking out for you, or it was a lonely road for you?
Okay, Dada Ricky. To be honest, I didn't get anything like that. I didn't get anything like that. And even if some of them wanted to check on me, when they realized that I was off social media and all of that, I wasn't even interested in, responding to anybody even. So I wouldn't really know if they really wanted to, give me any support or whatever. But then when I, came back, wanted to come back to do music again, even that one safe still. So no, I didn't really get anything like that. No, I didn't get any support.
Did you feel like you needed it at any point?
Pardon?
Did you feel at any point like you needed it? Like the same way when you have a big song, when Hitmaker was happening and people were reaching out and saying, Charlie, you did form. Hey, I hear say Stonebwoy sign you. Hey, the same way people went out of their way to want to be a part of your success. When things were crashing down, did you feel that energy and did you want it? Did you need that energy?
Wow. I would have loved to have people, reach out just like when then are the boss, then they reach out, Charlie, they feel your vibe. I would have loved to have that, but
Well, I think we lost Ovi there, but Mr. Logic is still on. So, Mr. Logic, we were speaking about the difference between extreme sadness. Things they go well, you are frustrated, you are just sad. You need somebody to vim you for the day. That and depression. We wanted to know exactly how you were able to tell the state our brother Shatta Bandana then was in, and how you were able to, actually be sure that this is what it is. Let's not call a clinical psychologist. We can handle this in-house. Because that's the thin line between saving somebody and losing somebody. And you made a judgment call there. We want to understand what led to that judgment call.
Well, I think it was because I was able to understand that when you are going through challenges in life, mentally you become unstable. So, personally, I knew it wasn't a thing of a medical. It wasn't a thing that needed a medical attention, because anytime I speak to him, I ask certain questions and I take note of the feedback I get from him. So I drew my conclusion that this guy is okay. It's just that he's depressed. He's not happy. Well, to say he's sad, that would be like, that wasn't the case. He is not happy. Things are not going the way he expects and the way he expected before. And also how he sees himself, he's not being, received that way. He's not being booked. He's not regarded. He was like, he's off.
Mr. Logic,
So
can we say that he was rather frustrated rather than depressed? Would you make that comparison?
Frustration will either make you sad or make you...
No, but here's the case. Doc has said that to be depressed or to conclude that you are depressed, you have to be clinically diagnosed. And so for all the things that he's saying, you can talk people out of frustration. You can't exactly talk people out of depression, easily like that. Easily is quote unquote.
I mean, not to be chopping lawyer for my senior, but he also mentioned that once things changed, his mood and everything also changed, right? So it was like maybe right or wrong. When things started looking up for Shatta, that sadness, that depression, that frustration automatically alleviated.
And you see, Cyril, Lenny's right. We are all learning here, Logic, so that we get to know that in situations as maybe a talent manager, if how to identify, so that we don't just think that it be me for SciCam. It be as your responsibility as a talent manager when he's going through a certain mode or when an artist is going through a certain mode. It is you who is supposed to quote unquote encourage. But we need to be able to understand, to be able to draw the fine line or understand the right process that Charlie, when it gets to this level, this is a signal. I need to reach out. So that's why Lenny was trying to also understand from Logic. How were you able to tell that Charlie? Or was there a situation, I don't know if he answered that already, where he says they never visited any psychologist at all? It was just purely...
I made the stand-in for Logic because, let me use myself as an example. I go out to places and look for business. Maybe I have a killer idea. I try and push and push and push, and it's months, and it's not breaking through, and you start doubting yourself, start feeling sad, start feeling frustrated, blah, blah, blah. It's almost crashing. Right? It's like daybreak again, carrying this laptop and driving back to these people's office to go and do the same thing again. It's really hellish. But guess what? The day they do sign that MOU or give you the deal, it's like magic. All the feeling and the negativity and everything it's like it never happened. So that's why when Mr. Logic explained it, that once things changed for Shatta, it was like some weight was off the shoulder. That's why I'm saying that he might have been perceptive enough to read that room. So everybody's right. There needs to be that clinical checkpoint that when Ricky starts shouting like this, call doctor. But on a random Wednesday, maybe Ricky is just frustrated. When he gets it, he'll be fine. But I mean, we're going to have to wrap up and close. Ovi and Mr. Logic, your last words, your last submissions. Of course, the whole month is Mental Health Month. So if we reach out to you again, no shaking crowd, we'll have a bigger platform to talk about it. But for now, we're running out of time. So your last words before I sign out.
Okay, I would say that mental health issues, they are real. I mean, it's an everyday thing. People are depressed every day. People are frustrated every day. People keep being sad every day. That is different from those that are deranged, those that are misbehaving, those that are acting abnormal. We should.
Oh, I think we have a break there in the transmission. Ovi, can you sign up for me? Last words.
Okay, my bosses. I would like to say that I feel like we should Ghanaians, when what we do, we should just relax on the comments where we give. When I came back trying to explain what I went through, I got comments like, right now and there, be like Kakra Umu. I said, it's a crowd, you day on this, you day on that, the cyberbullying, those things, or it add up, it worsen the situation, for the person, because we no be robots, you get me? Like we have blood running through our veins, you understand? So like if we tone down on those comments, it go really go a long way to help us, some encouraging words would really help, you understand? So that's all that I would say.
I love that.
Thank
more
you, guys.
Encouragement, less negativity. Mr. Logic, you're back. Sign up for us. Last messages, boss.
But I would say that we should, just as I said, we should tone down on how we we attack people on social media is becoming a problem. I mean, myself, I've had people coming at me. The other day, I posted my house. Someone just came. The rented house today, they post. I mean, he doesn't know whether it's rented or it's bought. Right there, I felt so bad.
Very disheartening.
You know, I had to just delete the picture. I mean, so some of the people who are not mentally strong, it affects them. We need to be careful how we attack people. Aside that, I think we need to also draw the fine distinction between being sad, being unhappy, and being deranged. Because where the conversation they go, it's as if we have too many mad people in the system that we need to be talking to. When someone is depressed, it doesn't mean that they are.
The word is mad. Well,
It doesn't mean that they are mad or they are insane. Seriously, that is the problem we have. When people are sad, to begin to understand depression is not. It's not
right.
I don't think that depression is, to me, I don't think that depression is an absolute mental illness. I don't think, like you quoted that the psychologist said that you need to be clinically diagnosed. No, I don't believe in that. Speak to people. Once people are stable and they communicate, they are fine. Give them the hope to believe that it will be well. Believe it shall be well. Take your time. Be patient. Don't clinically come and say that because they show signs of untidiness and they haven't bathed for 3 days and they refuse to eat, they are clinically sick. Once you draw that line, then you are drawing more people into madness. People can decide not to bath the whole day. It's just a matter of how they feel. And I think we have so many people being diagnosed of mental issues just because of the way they have decided to be, and they are not ill. So for me, these psychologists, they should take their time. Maybe they need contracts. They are pulling too many people into madness. By the way, they even diagnose them. My own brother, he had an issue and he was diagnosed of absolute. I mean, he was diagnosed as a madman. I went to a psychiatric hospital. I discharged him. I told him my brother is fine because he communicates. When I asked him, "Have you eaten?" and he hasn't, he said, "No, I haven't eaten." "Will you want to bath?" And he wants to bath. He said, "I will bath." "Where is your clothes?" Every question I asked, I get an answer. I said, "This guy is fine." You understand? But if the psychologists then say that he is not fine, he's mad, just because he wasn't communicating on her level. You understand? So please, my advice is the psychologists, the clinical psychologists, all these people, please, they should be careful what they term as mental illness. They should be careful what they term as mental illness. Because as we speak, we may all be sad this morning and can express how we feel, and one would think that you are not normal. How are you thinking like this?
Charlie, big bro, my time finished, but Abab, we'll expand on the conversation once we connect again. It's the whole month. And thank you, Ovi, and thank you, Mr. Logic, for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Carol Mathias O'Chez, for coming in with that insightful lecture at the beginning of Culture Daily's big conversation. Today, Tuesday, 2nd May. You already know, yesterday, May Day, we jammed at Tunnel Lounge, but today we are minding our minds on the big conversation. I have Ricky Tenneson, Lenny Lomote, and Olile Salvador here in studio with me. It's been a big one. We're going to continue with this conversation, definitely, and more initiatives coming up right here on 3 Music TV. Stay tuned right here, plus 89.9 3 Music TV. The name is Serial, and we're out for today.